This application was deferred from the March 9th hearing to revise. It's a detached dwelling with an attached garage with 9 variances. We have an applicant's presentation, a planning report for info, and oh yeah, they have it's no further concerns that following the revisions that were made. And we have as speakers on this application Peter Giordano as agent, and then a whole bunch of neighbors from 16, 18, 28, and 26 ATHOL Crescent. The neighbor at 18 is in support. So let's hear from Mr. Giordano.
Hi, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Peter Giordano, David Small Designs, 1405 Cornwall Road in Oakville. I'm the authorized agent.
Okay. Why don't you give us a brief presentation, given that there's a number of people here in opposition, unless you want to, I see we have your presentation material, so why don't you just give us a brief outline of your application.
Okay, so in an effort to save time, because I know it's late, and I know you know that we already have 14 neighbors, letters from 14 neighbors in support. I'll leave it up to you to confirm, but I recognize the three of the neighbors that have called in. I recognize the name Anna Santos, Carson Lee, and David LaPrivo. I believe they've all called in to support our application. I don't know about the 4th person, so I'd leave it up to you to confirm. If you wanted to start, I can start with the presentation, or you might want to confirm that statement.
So there's a note here next to just David LaPrivo that he's in support, not next to the other 3. So that's all I can tell you. I don't know what if they're in favor or they're not in favor, but I don't know if staff can assist.
Okay, again, in an effort to save time, if you wanted to check with them, and I can gladly address any questions they might have.
Okay, yeah, and they're not, I don't look like, no one's right next door. Staff, can we find out if they're in favor or in opposition at this point?
Okay.
Don't check with 18 because we already have it noted that he's in support.
And Mr. Asta, we tried reaching him, but we were unable to. So I will go to Carson.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. We feel that this is a good addition to the neighborhood, and we support the application.
Okay, and you are?
We are in support, Mr.
Well, you
Chair.
are? What's your name?
Carson Lee, number 28.
Oh, okay. Carson Lee, right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so you're also in support, as is the neighbor at 18. What about the neighbor 26, Anna Santos?
Yes, this is Anna Santos, and we are also in support.
Oh, okay. Very nice for neighbors to stay on the line and do all this. Usually it's just people who are opposed who do that. So okay, so we have support.
No, I think it'll be a great addition to the neighborhood.
Very nice. Okay, so in that case, I guess we don't need a presentation. Let's see if committee members have any questions for the applicant. Yeah, the planning is satisfied. They have given us a report for information, and there is urban forestry 2 and 3 on this. If there's no questions, does someone want to make a motion? Someone ready, or you want?
Can you hear me? Or are we speaking? I think. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was making a motion. I was talking, but you didn't.
Okay.
So I said if there was no questions, I was prepared to make a motion to accept this application, find to be minor in nature, consistent with the principles of the 4 tests set out in the Planning Act, subject to condition 2 and 3 from urban forestry.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Reddick. Seconder for that. Transportation conditions. Is there?
Yes. I was just going to mention Ms. Reddick, did you mention the transportation conditions as well in your
No, I
motion?
didn't.
Oh, here.
No, I
And
didn't.
if
I'm
not,
happy
would
to
you-
add that
would you
in.
accept-
And
You
yeah, and
accept it in a friendly way? Good.
I
Okay, I'll
certainly do.
second it on that basis.
Okay, so you're seconding on the, adding the transportation, and all in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Giordano.
Thank you,
You're
committee.
up-
And I'd
you're
like
up
to
on the
thank the
next item,
neighbors for
too.
appearing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're the next application as well.
That's correct.
Okay, let's just, 51 Wallasey. An application for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. This was deferred from March 23rd, and in the additional materials, yeah, someone mentioned that, okay, first of all, there's nothing, transportation has no objection. We have an applicant's presentation. We have a detached dwelling with 4 variances. In the additional materials, 55, Wellesley advised that they have no objection, and as well, I believe, I don't know if it was the applicant or someone else said that on their slide labeling, I think it was Mr. Jordan, it should be Wallasey and not Thorncrest. So there was just
That's correct.
a little correction in the additional materials we just received to just clarify that in your presentation. So that was, thanks for advising us about that. And there is nobody else here. So committee members, I don't believe you need a presentation. Okay. No questions for Mr. Giordano, and just if anyone has a motion or if anyone has any questions prior to that. There's no one else
I'm prepared to move a motion. I'll move for approval. Variances requested are minor in nature and meet the 4 tests in the Planning Act. Doesn't appear there's any conditions.
No. Okay, thank you, Mr. Palmer. Seconded by Ms. Alderson. I see your hand up. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Giordano.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Too. Okay, item number 49 is 68 Thompson. And it's an application for to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling and a new covered rear deck. There are 7 variances. We have presentation and photos. We have photos from number 66, and we have opposition, ATHOL opposition letters, as well as photos submitted by 66 Thompson, a presentation from TOCA, and as well as all the materials from the previous hearing. So the owner is registered, Pero Reljan is the owner, and we have speakers registered from 66 Thompson, 70 Thompson, 76 Thompson, and 28 Meadowcrest.
Mr. Chair, the Catherine Pastor from 70 Thompson she's no longer joining us.
Okay. So let's hear first of all from the agent, the owner actually, the applicant, Pero Reljan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pero Reljan, and I'm owner of 68 Thompson.
Okay.
We are asking for seven. You can hear me?
Yes.
Asking for 7 minor variances to build second-story addition with covered porch at the back. This is our second request in front of committee for same project. Previous file is A0549/19EYK, approved on December 13, 2019. I will go over each variance with reference
Hold
to
on a second. You said you have a previous Committee of Adjustment decision, and that was,
Yes,
I see that was in December 2019.
that's right. That was for the new home, so we decided to keep existing wall and put addition at the second floor.
Okay, so you didn't go ahead with this? You didn't go ahead with this new construction?
No, I didn't go ahead with the new
Okay,
construction.
so it's, okay, you didn't do that. You got approval, but you didn't build it. And now
That's
you're
right.
coming back for, instead.
Yeah, it's a different.
Just a top up, so.
Yeah.
Top up, I'm surprised there's 7 variances for a top up and a covered porch, so.
Yeah, so it's clear when I go just through. So
Okay.
when we change our plan, we have a 7 variances, but I will just go like variance number 1. It's the lot coverage is same, and number 2 is same. Most of those variances came because of pre-existing condition, you know. So if we can, so with side setbacks, main issue is like existing is on the south, on the left side is 0.9 meter, on the right side is only next to the garage wall, which is 70 feet long. This is variances which apply, and addition at the back and the second story addition is 1.2 meter away from the property line, which brings the total setback at 2.1 meter. So like variance is only applying to the portion of the garage wall. Now page number 4 and 5 or on the same slide. We're talking about number 4, which is maximum permitted height of the main wall. Previously approved main wall is 6.5 meter. We're asking for 6.71 meter. Obviously, reason is because we're keeping existing basement slab, so we're just raising the house up. So this is necessary to keep the basement slab, which is applied to maximum height of the building, which is going up to 8.9 meter from 8.7 previously approved. There is one new variance for main pedestrian entrance, which is variance number 6. We're asking for 1.28 meter, which is only 0.08 meter above the allowed, which is 1.2. So we're talking about 3.5 inches. But I will just mention that elevation of the entrance porch, it's 1.13 meter. And this same apply of the porch at the back of the house. Variance number 7 is talking about roof eaves projection. Roof eaves, the dwelling will be located 0.15 meter from the north side lot line. This variance is for existing garage wall only. Again, it applies only to the existing garage wall, which is about 70 feet long. There is no variances for eaves on the left side. Now, if you can please bring the page number 2 of same presentation, I will just state that furthermore, I would like to state a few facts about proposed dwelling. Addition at the back is only 4 feet deep, shorter than neighboring house on the left side. So we're not adding, the house is only 47 or 47.5 feet deep. Existing portion of the main wall at the right side of the house presently is located only 10 inches away from the property line, will be demolished, and the new wall will be 1.2 meter away from the property line. This is that shaded area at the back on the right side. Many variances are due to pre-existing condition. Original plans are altered as per city planning department recommendation. So our first proposal is obviously to build a higher home to accommodate 10 feet main floor ceiling. So we kind of lower that down to as per planning department. I have discussion with Mr. Andrew Watson, TOCA chair, Ms. Catherine Pastor, next door neighbor at 70 Thompson, and Mr. Craig Parker, next door neighbor at 66 Thompson. Requests for changes are all in line with making variances in line with previously approved committee decision, which means any discussion went in direction to lower the house down, which didn't make any sense for me. So unfortunately, I was not able to accommodate that. Otherwise, I already have a committee decision made with those heights, you know.
Yeah.
If moderator can just please scroll to the photos support. That's another. It's a different file. File name is photos.
Well, you know, I was noticing that your variance numbers are very similar to what you were going to get on your new build. So I don't know why there's.
Yeah.
It looks like it's a
I don't
similar
know.
GFA, a similar height, you know. And obviously you're stuck with
It's all-
existing conditions that
Yeah,
your
so-
garage wall, because or if you have side yard setbacks, you're going to build in line with below. You're going to have. So some of your variances are, because you're going with a top-up now, you have existing condition. Okay, so you're
Yeah.
now showing us other examples on the street?
I just went down because it's, as you know, neighbors will always try to portray the new project as something out of ordinary or out of
Yes.
this world. there. So I just went around, only block around the neighborhood, which is on the Thompson, and took the picture of a few homes. So if you just can scroll to them, which are very similar to our design. Some of the, this is exactly similar to what I'm proposing, that house on 30 Thompson. And I took the picture of this couple of older house, which are showing, 7 or 8 steps toward the main entrance, which mean our pedestrian entrance being 1.28 is not something which is out of character for this neighborhood. So I cannot see anything which is out of character with this neighborhood. I believe that this neighborhood is changing, and unfortunately or fortunately for me, we are one of the first projects in this neighborhood. So I would think building the new home, which will increase the appeal of the neighborhood for existing neighbors and for new potential purchasers. So I hope that panel can share my view and that they can consider this application as desirable for the area, meeting all 4 criteria for the establishment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the next speaker is Ingrid Van Vert at 28 Meadowcrest. I don't know if that's behind.
I actually, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I think I'm supposed to be third. The way that it's supposed to be Mr. Watson, then Mr. Parker, and then me, if you don't mind.
Okay, fine. Mr. Watson. I have a list and you're first on the list, so.
Okay, hello to everybody. I'm sure it's been a long day for y'all, so I'll try to keep it to 5 minutes or less. My name is Andrew Watson. I live 4 houses down at 76 Thompson Avenue. I lived at the house for the last 13 years. I'm speaking on behalf as a neighbor and as well as a member of the Etobicoke board. Thompson Orchard, a community of 330 houses. We're a small community. This area is traditionally made up of 1, 1.5, and 2-story Tudor style, arts and crafts style house builds. We've got 19 letters of opposition, 17 households in the area, 1 from Toka and 1 from the council, and no letters of support. In terms of this application, the 2 of the 4 tests in particular, we want to point out that we don't feel that it meets the standard. The first one is we view the variance is not as minor, and with regards to desirable, and that it is not a desirable and appropriate for the use of and development of the land. So those are the 2 that we're pointing out. Important case law we wanted to note, Vincent and de Gasperis, Ontario Divisional Court, established the Planning Act tests. They mentioned that the applicants bear the onus and have to satisfy and prove they have met the 4 tests of variance. In particular, we want to point out that the Justice Matlow pointed out that he emphasized, or he or she emphasized, or his ruling that the proposed variances need to be desirable. The second test requires consideration of desirability and not compatibility, whether it was desirable from planning or public point of view. So I think from the public interest point of view, we see it as not being desirable in fitting and prevailing for the area. We view this application as not meeting that interest. The proposed new house would have a monolithic vertical massing look to it because of the 2nd-story addition on a grandfathered side yard setbacks. The aggregate of those side yard setbacks is 1.48 meters versus the bylaw 2.1 meters. The applicant previously went to committee of adjustments, received approval on plans that have had a less aggregate massing than this plan. It was a new build previously. The altered one is a 2nd-story addition built on top. The altered dwelling will have a main entrance of 1.2 meters above established grade. That was not the case in the previous application. the owner or the applicant stated in conversations with us, with me, that they didn't want to dig down 2 feet into the foundation like they did for the previous approved designs, which means the 8-foot basement ceilings, the main floor grade in the main entrance, and back porch is higher than the bylaw. It pushes the 2nd story main wall higher, thus lowering the roof pitch and making it look flat from the street. The reasons provided for not doing this in terms of digging down, which were the previous plans, was flooding and sewage drainage concerns, the expensive sub pumps, and the potential of flooding. The applicant indicated, and the owner that the owner at 70 Thompson next door had 2 sub pumps, and he didn't want that. The build 2 doors north at 64 Thompson Avenue, which is going to COA shortly, has plans to dig down into the foundation. As studied by the City Fund Hydrologic Modeling Report on Mimco Creek, published over a decade ago, the Upper Thompson, where the applicant is building, is not in a floodplain. The applicant's property is not back up on Mimco Creek, and the property is not under TRCA jurisdiction. This applicant does not fit the prevailing physical character of the neighborhood, according to official plan, and in returns, the building type and physical character of the geographic neighborhood will be determined by the most frequently occurring form of development in the neighborhood. This design does not meet that.
You want to wrap up, please, sir, because you're approaching 5 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. There's been significant redevelopment in the Thompson Orchard with more than 80 applications and a committee of adjustments in the last 15 years. If you look at some of the designs we provided in our TOCA presentation, we wanted to point out in the last 15 years, 10 of the 43 houses in the first 2 blocks of Thompson Avenue were granted an average FSI of 0.59. The FSI is 0.66, which is 12% higher than the average mean and 47% higher than the bylaw. The last piece I'm going to say, just closing, we want to highlight the impact of the monolithic massing is pronounced. And when you look at the setbacks, that's really a key point. The main wall height is something we also pointed out in our massing and in some of our slides. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation on behalf of TOCA. You were saying the last 15 years there are 80 applications and the average GFA was, you said, 0.5 something, or one of the last things?
Yes, I'll clarify that. So that's all based on that's our database at TOCA.
Yeah.
These are based on committee adjustment notices in the past 15 years.
Okay. What about in the last 5? Would you agree with, has it's kind of gone higher over the last 15 years from 2005, or or is it sort of flat all the way across that period? Just curious if, say 15 years, maybe in the last 5 years, have they been higher, or they're pretty consistent over the last 15 years in terms of what the GFA approval is at?
Yeah, perhaps to some degree. Again, I don't have that right in front of me.
Okay, I just didn't know if you had that. Okay, so you feel it's too, even though it's a top up compared to a, I guess building a new house has you a chance to start with new foundations, new side yards. You don't have to deal with what you already have. So, and interesting, in this case, he actually has an approval to do just that and has chosen not to. Okay,
I have a quick question. Can I have a quick question with the neighbor, if I
Sure.
could, through the chair?
Mr. Watson.
I understand you live at 76 Thompson Avenue, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so it's a 2-story home and it looks like it may be a new build, or is it a reno?
You mean 76 Thompson?
Yeah, your home.
Yeah. Okay. It was good question. That's a good question.
Because it looks like it may be a new build. And I just have another quick question, and then that's it. Do you happen to know what your own FSI is?
I should know that. I don't know that offhand. I just joined the board and started being interested in development matters in the last year, and so I don't know that offhand.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we have what, another 2 speakers on this one? So let's, Craig Parker, I guess, is the next one.
I'll try to be as quick as possible because I know it's late and you guys have been working a very long day. If possible, if you could bring up my presentation of pictures to slide 2.
Yeah, you're right next door.
Right next door. I'm also speaking on behalf of Kathy Pastor, who was not able to attend this evening, but shares our same views on the development. I just want to call that out.
So who's, oh, that's the other speaker. Oh, it's 70 on the other side.
Yeah, she's just on the
right.
house to the.
Yeah, she was supposed to be speaking, but she's not available. So, okay.
Yeah, so just want to call it just very quickly this slide. That's Kathy's house on the left, mine on the right. The actual 68 that's in the center, and the new build going up at or proposed for 68. So again, let me just I'll go through my notes very, very quickly. First of all, you did call out already there were 5 variances in a previous 2019. Don't know why it wasn't built. Doesn't matter though. What happened at that time, there was significant opposition. Just the numbers keep getting larger. And what's happening now is because this is on a narrow setback, using those existing setbacks, the grandfathered side yards, it even makes it look that much larger. And it's not like the variances went down to compensate. They actually have grown in size. The wall height's growing, the building height's growing, and there's a whole set of new variances being added on. So our concerns as neighbors is the aggregate of those variances are not minor. And it really ends up building a house that is not prevailing. It's going to be a gigantic block in between our houses. And if you can just go to the second or the next slide, the 4th, you'll start to see that the homes have the shallower, or sorry, one back, if you don't mind. Yeah, you see that with the lower wall heights, the houses start to have peaked roofs, and that's not the case here. So just coming through again, the successive main wall and dwelling height combined with the non-compliant side yard setbacks will result in this bulky structure. We're also very concerned that the eave variances and the extra, as they call, glazing on the side is going to exacerbate the problem of accessing our mutual properties between that 17-foot garage. We won't be able to maintain that side of the property, put up a ladder, etc. And again, that's just a concern I wanted to call out. The eaves add to it, and this glazing material, which probably will be foam and cement, will add to the shortness or the depth between the 2 properties. The next, the majority of nearby homes. So, and again, I don't want to bore with the details, but there, I went through, looked at the dwellings and the main wall heights within our block and around us. They're all shorter. I think we only found one that's not. And what it leads to is a peaked roof design on all of the homes. Again, just from the picture showing, this house is not going to be that. It's going to be extremely high walls with an extremely shallow roof. I'll try to get to my last sort of major point is because of the raised pedestrian entrance and the thick flanking of that front porch, it's going to add to the overall massing bulk. Again, the majority of surrounding homes have a main pedestrian entrance heights that are well below what's being asked for. In the case of 64 Thompson, they are actually coming out with a new build where they've got the compliant main floor wall, or the main floor wall heights, the pedestrian entrance, and they also have compliant side yard setbacks. That front porch is going to result in a back porch that's over almost 11 and a half feet tall with a big covering on top of it. And I won't get into, like, really it's the privacy issues around that porch, all created by the raised height of that building. I will say there was a suggestion of a privacy screen. Really what it's going to do is just add a wall to it and make it that much larger. Okay, and I'll wrap up very quickly here. I went through, looked at the main entrances on our street. They are lower. Mine is 0.48, Kathy's is 0.66 meters. I found one house that was as high as the proposed. So I don't know if I agree with all the houses have high porches. And if I can just draw to 30 Thompson, the main comparison used, that house did not have a dwelling height variance. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you go through the neighborhood, you are going to find a batch of houses with a batch of individual variances. Our concern is this one has them all 7. So I'll sort of cut it off there. I know you guys are working way late, but that is our concerns as neighbors.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Parker.
Thank you.
Okay, so last speaker is Ingrid Van Vert, 28 Meadowcrest.
Hi. Although my address is Meadowcrest, I actually front on Thompson, and I'm a couple of blocks away from the proposed build. I am also the lawyer who fought on behalf of a group of citizens at TLAB recently to uphold a Committee of Adjustments decision on 60 Meadowvale, and we were successful. And the reason, and that build at 60 Meadowvale was very similar to what is being proposed here, in that in order to maximize interior space, they sought extremely high sidewalls. They had very small side yard setbacks, and a roof that was essentially flat, appeared flat from the street. And the TLAB agreed with the neighbors there. There was tremendous opposition. TLAB agreed that it was not in keeping with the character of Thompson Orchard. As you know, Thompson Orchard has a site-specific bylaw because the lots here, so just for these 330 houses, there's a site-specific bylaw, and because the lots are small, and the bylaw was an attempt to prevent overbuilding on them. And 60 Meadowvale was overbuilding, and it is our position that what the applicant is trying to do is also overbuilding. He is more than tripling the size of his current house from under 1,000 square feet to 3,168 square feet. He is seeking 7 variances, as you know, and while he claims that this build is not dissimilar to the plans that were previously approved, 3 of the variances are new, and of the 4 that were previously approved, he is seeking to substantially increase 2 of them. So as Mr. Parker said, the size just keeps getting bigger. He received significant variances from the Committee of Adjustment and now wants to increase the size of the house again. And the test is not whether the change is minor from his previous plans. The test is whether the change is minor from the bylaw. So his previous plans, frankly, are irrelevant, but he tries to use them as the base. They're not the base. The bylaw is the base. And I understand that obviously with FSI, there's been increases in the bylaw, but he already received those and wants more. He has submitted photos that he says support his variances. However, all of the photos show houses with 1 variance or possibly 2, but not all 7 variances. And as Mr. Parker said, our concern springs from the cumulative effect of having a home with 7 substantial variances. He has not shown a photo of any home like that. And as you can see from the architectural rendering that Mr. Parker showed, the house does not appear at all similar to the adjoining houses. And his comparables, for instance, 30 Thompson, it has similar wall height, but significantly smaller FSI and does not have variances for the roof or the front entrance. 74 Thompson, another comparable that he relies on, is on a lot that is 90 feet longer. And also 74 Thompson is one of the reasons TOCA was granted a site-specific bylaw in 1992. It was recognized that home was too big for the neighborhood. I could go on about how his comparables are not actually appropriate comparables, but what I'd like to talk about a little bit is just the issue of prevailing character. Mr. Relgen cherry picks a few houses and then says because certain aspects of those houses are similar to his application, he should be entitled to the variances he seeks. But the official plan speaks about prevailing character, not precedent. And the prevailing character is not what the architectural rendering shows. There are many things that Mr. Relgen could build that his neighbors would not object to. As has been indicated, there is a new build at 64 Thompson, and it will not be opposed. Those neighbors have worked, or those owners have worked with the neighbors surrounding them. They revised their plans to meet neighbors' objections, and they will be coming to the Committee of Adjustments with no opposition as far as we know. Unlike Mr. Relgen, they did try to address neighborhood concerns. And one way that Mr. Relgen could do this is to dig down, but he doesn't want to. They're doing it at 64 Thompson. He's not in a floodplain. He hasn't explained why he can't dig down. He simply doesn't want to have sump pumps. So to wrap up, to permit such a large home over the objection of many neighbors, and in light of evidence that it is not similar to homes in the neighborhood, is not desirable and does not, in our view, maintain the purpose of Thompson Orchard site-specific bylaw or the intent of the official plan. There are, I counted 26 letters of opposition filed, but somebody previously said 19. In any event, there are a lot of letters of opposition filed. The councillor is opposed. His letter is filed. His letter of April 6th, 2021 suggests that this should be deferred so that Mr. Relgen can work with the neighbors and make some adjustments.
You wrapping up, please?
Yep. And he has not made any adjustments since the councillor's letter. So we suggest that this should be deferred so that he can actually work with the neighbors and change his plans. If the Committee of Adjustment decides to approve this application, I respectfully request that you give reasons as to how this build meets the 4 tests set out in the Planning Act. It would be helpful to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the last speaker or any of the speakers before you go back to the owner to have his rebuttal? Okay. Mr. Reljan, can you please
Yes.
respond to the concerns raised by the neighbors? And you have 5 minutes.
I think it's not really fair to compare this house with the 60 Thompson, which is completely different. It's a 3-story flat roof house, and personally, I will never support building like that. Another issue is this. I can see this is always try to be presented as a large home. I will point that existing house, which is peak height of the wall for the proposed house, it's the same height as the existing roof peak, which means we're adding. It's very similar to height of the neighbor house on the left side. Also, I have to mention that I shortened the house. House is only 48 feet long, which means on our previous decision, it was big issue about depth of the house. This is those homes are overlooking a ravine, and it was the biggest issue. The 66 neighbor not to have a view at the back of the ravine, which having house shorter, I think that is more important than side setbacks, because those are existing, and I think they affect much neighbors. Also, I have to I remove several windows on the side of the house. New proposed house has only one window on the left side.
Sir, you're giving us. You have to just respond to the things that they said. Not you're not responding to their issues. You're just telling us what you're doing again.
I want to say, when we're talking of GFI, and they portraying this house as a large house, there is a application from 64 Thompson, and pretty much they use the exactly same GFI as our house, and nobody's talking about, and it's on smaller lot, but I don't hear anybody complaining about that for whatever reason. So I still believe this was unjustly portrayed as a large home. This is 3,000 just over 3,000 square feet house on 40 feet wide lot. I don't think that's a extremely large home looking around in the neighborhood. So that's all I can say. I know this is a tough time for neighborhood because it's going through the change. People want to develop their own property, but I think still that this dwelling will be appreciated in the neighborhood. For me now to make a decision to bring the house down, it just doesn't make any sense because I will have an issue with another, as I mentioned before, that's why I'm here. But I still think having house with this height of the roof and the wall height is nothing which we don't see in the neighborhood around. There are homes which are 9.5 meter high too, only like 100 yards or 150 yards away from the home.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions from Mr. Reljan or any of the neighbors? Or I'm going to take it into committee now for a decision. Wait for someone to make a motion.
Mr. Chair, in my view, contrary to what was just stated in evidence, I believe the base upon which we make this decision is the Committee of Adjustment approval, previous approval. And when we look at that decision, we see, for instance, with respect to variance 1, previous decision was to approve a lot coverage of 33.4%. Proposed is 33.4%. Yes, 10 meters squared larger. Gross floor area was approved at 66%. Proposed gross floor area is 66%. In fact, it's a meter squared smaller, et cetera, et cetera. In my view, the requested variances are infinitesimally different than, in all cases, than what was approved before. And I'm satisfied that the proposal meets the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I move for approval without conditions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor. I have a seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion.
Bill Palmer, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion fails. Can I have a new motion?
I just want to say that I think a 3,000 square foot home on this lot is an overbuild. I do support what the community is saying, and I also, with so many letters of opposition and also a counselor that's weighing in and is asking for deferral, I ask that this application be deferred. Once again, to allow for proper consultation with the community and with city planning.
We don't typically listen to applications at the committee for 45 minutes or half an hour or an hour and then defer it.
Okay.
That's just not the way we do things. What's the purpose of a deferral? He's come in with his application. He said he's not making changes. So I don't know why. Anyway, you made a motion. Let's see if
the counselor has asked for deferral, but I'm prepared to just flat out refuse it then.
Well, I'm saying that's what I thought you were going, but to say after all this time to defer, like what are we deferring for? He's come in with his the parties have had their positions, and in fact, this matter was deferred from April the 13th. So we can just keep deferring it. But after we hear an application, given the pressures on the city and on community planning and on committee of adjustment to listen to applications, when we listen to an application, we don't listen to it for 45 minutes and then say we're going to defer it unless something comes up during the hearing that wasn't known.
You've made your point. I retract that motion, and I actually make a motion for refusal.
Thank you.
Based on those same reasons.
Yeah. Seconder for that motion, Sophia. All in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-2. The application is refused. Thank you. The next application, we have 2 more. The next one is 50 A, B, and C, 3972 Bloor Street West. And this is an application, again, to sever the property into 2 underside lots, residential lots, and build detached dwelling with an attached garage on each lot. We have 8 variances on each of the 2 sides. We have a planning report for information that they have no concerns. And this matter was deferred from February 23rd, 2021 to make changes and submit a revised plans and then to identify a 4-meter strip to satisfy the 27-meter right-of-way width as per the engineering construction memo. And Urban Forestry is requesting condition number 2. We have Branko Mladenov as the agent, as the only speaker on this application.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening,
and members.
Good evening. So it looks like you made changes, I guess. You were deferred February 23rd. You want to walk us through what happened? You made changes, and now community planning appears to be happy.
Yes. Before that, I also had communication with the planners, and we reduced the building length from 19 to 18 meters.
Yep.
We also provided 12 letters of support in the neighborhood. And we think that actually all these variances are minor, acceptable.
Okay.
The old house will stay as is with no changes. We just are proposing the demolition of the existing garage because it will be.
Okay, sorry. Okay, yeah, so there's going to be on part 1, there's a new detached dwelling with attached garage with variances.
Part 2 is existing, as is.
Yeah, the other half is as is, and then you have your part, as I said, for the road allowance.
Yes.
So it's just the one new house being built, the other one is existing.
Yes, the other one is existing.
Yeah, okay, so everyone seems to be happy. You reduce that. Committee members, any questions for the applicant, agent, or is someone ready to make a motion?
Question of it looks like part 3 does not go across the entire frontage of Bloor Street. Why is that?
It goes. I mean, on both part 1 and part 2, we took 0.4 meters from both lots.
Yeah, but it looks like part 3 doesn't go all the way across, or am I reading that wrong?
No,
part 3, I see. It's an arrow pointing to there.
Yeah,
I
it's
see.
just
Okay.
Yes, 0.4 meters for road allowance.
Okay, sorry. I thought the arrows coming from that part that says part 3 were part of the reference.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. It's late.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's very late.
Yeah, so one part, you're building one new house, retaining the other one and conveying to the city for the other part. And you have a petition and support. You deferred, you made changes, everyone's happy, correct? And for urban forestry conditions, so someone's ready to make a motion.
Palmer, I'll move for approval on the severance application with standard conditions. And on the variances, they're minor and meet the 4 tests in the Planning Act.
Okay, and the
With,
forestry?
urban forestry.
Is there not also engineering condition?
Yes, always on a consent.
Yeah, on the
Construction
consent.
services, it's just the standard.
Do we refer to it in the motion? So do we
Well,
not
with the
refer to it in
standard
Okay.
conditions.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
and
Mr.
specifically
Palmer.
the engineering conditions.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Taylor. Hand up went first. All in favor, unanimous approval.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, our last item, item number 51, 2250 Islington Avenue. It's an application to maintain the building. Interesting wording, but there's 4 variances and we have Councillor Ford in support.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. We have one speaker,
Okay.
Jenny Stark, on behalf of the applicant.
Yes.
Welcome.
Do you want a presentation, an explanation?
I just maybe like a couple of minutes to just let us know what this is all about. It's
Okay,
an existing
so-
building. Yeah.
Right. So I'm representing the owner and the applicant, which is the Rice Group.
Okay.
we own both parcels, 2200 and 2250 Islington. So the application is to maintain the building at 2250 Islington
Right.
because of we have submitted a consent application to do a lot addition of a portion of this property to 2200 Islington.
Oh, okay.
And the lot addition is being considered by the Secretary Treasurer. And it's to facilitate a portion of the commercial development that we currently have under construction at 2200.
Oh, okay. So this is to maintain this building, given that it's on a smaller
Yes.
lot now, because you're going to
So
take
if you
some of the lot away from it.
look at the site plan that they have, that we submitted, I don't know if you have it.
Yeah.
You'll see a hatched area on the north side of the building.
Yep.
That's the survey. Keep going. Keep going. That's my reference plan. My survey. My letter.
That's it. Yeah, it's the first one.
Nope.
It has a little, and it has the Rice Group, the yellow little circle on the right side. It's a site plan with all the parking in and all the buildings.
There it is.
There we go.
That's it.
Yep.
So the hatched area is the area that we're giving away to 2200.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So what happens is when this building was built in the 1960s, we had frontage on Islington Avenue. Since that time, the MTO expropriated all of our frontage along Islington for the on-ramp to the 401, leaving this building with no frontage on a street. Normally, we wouldn't have any variances because we're not touching the existing building. But because of our development at 2200, you'll see that there's a street coming in on the west side of the building, and it's labeled as Street C, Street B. I can't remember which street that is, but you'll see on the west side, because north is actually to the building has determined that that street is our new frontage.
Okay.
So that's how all the variances arise for front yard and landscaping, because what used to be our rear yard is now considered our front yard.
Okay.
And the building was built with a 0 setback and no landscaping was required. On the north side yard setback, we've increased that setback from 0 that was there to 1.47 meters. And on the east side yard setback, which is now the rear, we have 1.5 meters just for the portion where the lot line touches the building. But the building is not being altered. There are no changes to it. What you see on the site plan is what will be there after we do the lot addition. We're just recognizing that the lot addition creates some variances to the existing building.
Right. Okay. Good explanation. So we know why this is before us. Because you're maintaining the building on a smaller lot because you're transferring, and it seems like everyone's okay. Planning's okay with this.
Yep, it's all the portion that's being transferred has been part of our site plan agreement since the time we submitted it.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to now change ownership of that piece because we can't complete our site plan application with the portion that has the gas bar on separate ownership.
For sure. Okay, and Councillor Ford's in support. Any questions, or are we ready for a motion?
Just a quick question. You said it was owned by the Rice Group. What is currently being housed there? Just out of curiosity.
In that building, it's Post Media. So Quebec or they make the Toronto Sun. Okay. It's a media print house right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we're waiting for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I find the variances requested meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move for approval without conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion.
I'm delighted to second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Jenny Stark.
Thank you, Michael Clark, and committee members. Thank you for waiting all night for me.
Oh, sure. Okay, and we stand adjourned at 8:30. That's the latest I've ever done.
Good night, everyone. Pleasant dreams.
Yeah.
Stay negative.
I'd say have a nice evening, what's left of it.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone. Be well.
Until we meet again.